All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show, and we're excited to be with y'all. Monty, what's up, dude?
Not much. Another week down, another week to talk about. First we got to recap this last week. A lot of fun football was played. A lot of close games, honestly. You also got, it was kind of weird. You got a couple close games at the beginning of the game, and then they ended up separating themselves, and then a couple, I guess you could say, blowouts early on, and then a lot of teams were able to come back. So we got a lot of football to talk about. We did pretty good on our predictions, I think. But yeah, we'll talk about those. Excited to be back.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was really only one game that I would say I was off on. And we'll start there with our week 6 recap episode, y'all. We're going to dive right into what a lot of people may consider one of the more surprising, I guess, results of the
First, as you can see, we are back in person.
back in person.
So excited to do that too. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to dive right in. Florida versus Texas. Florida ends up winning 29-21. And let me just take this one right on the chin here. I was wrong here. I didn't think that the Florida offense was going to be able to find their stride against what I thought was probably one of the best defenses they had faced to that point. And actually, it was the opposite of that. Florida was able to find their stride offensively, able to run the ball really effectively, and DJ Lagway was able to hit some shots downfield that really just made that Florida offense kind of click. And you saw kind of what had been hyped about in the offseason kind of come to fruition there for Florida, and able to pull out a win over Texas at the Swamp. So good win for Florida.
Yeah.
And Texas, does it leave some question marks for you?
Well, they gotta, obviously they gotta find themselves still. A lot of questions still up in the air that need to be answered this year that are much different than last year. I was wrong as well on this one. I talked about last week though that Florida, they needed to minimize turnovers. Lagway needs to step up, and could they establish the run? All three of those things they did. We saw that Florida found the run game. Lagway 21-28, 298 and 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, or at least no interceptions. He looked good in the pocket. He looked like he trusted his O-line, which he should. He has a really good O-line. They were able to establish a run. That Jaden Baugh, 27 carries, 107 yards and a touchdown. Like, he still over 100 yards, 27 carries. I mean, he was getting the ball like 10, 12 times a game going into this one. And yeah, so to get 27 carries, and it made the difference. And I actually put it in, I said, I think this ended up being the key to the game. They were able to control the game. But on the Texas side of it, I mean, it's a lot of people are obviously going to point fingers at Arch, right? That's going to be the thing. And he didn't have a perfect game by any stretch. Didn't really have a good game, but man, he's dropped back in the pocket, and in 2 seconds, he's got 2 guys in his face, 2 defenders in his face. So that Texas O-line really has to figure it out. Going into the season, that was the question mark, right? Was the Texas offensive line, and it just seems like they haven't stepped up to the plate like they needed to. Like I said, Arch was running for his life. He was still able to get, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, and obviously the 2 interceptions pretty late in the game, which, it's hard to do in the air when you total 52 yards on the ground and 37 of them being Arch's rush yards. So it was a one-dimensional game for Texas, and that obviously ended up being the difference for them. And then just not being able to stop the run against Florida. It was a great win for Florida. I can't say I had a feeling. I had a worry about this being the case. Florida, like I said, in the Swamp. It's one of those tough places to play. Tennessee knows it all too well. And that ended up being the case for Texas. But Florida, like I said, did what they needed to do in this game, and it ended up causing a win. And Billy Boy bought himself some more time, I'd say.
At least bought himself another week,
Yeah,
right? And no, I think that's kind of one of the main concerns you have for Texas coming out of this game is I don't think Arch played poor. he didn't play great, right? But he didn't. I don't think he was
It wasn't a disaster by any
right.
stretch.
Yeah, it's not a.
Like
It's not
like
a.
that one article that came out saying he was
Yeah, the New
he's a
York
flop.
Times. He's a flop.
I was like, yeah, he didn't flop. Like
Yeah,
I mean, 16 of 29, 262, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Like, yeah, you don't want those turnovers, of course, but when you're running for your life back there,
right. And that's the main concern, right? When you have coming out of this, you're like, well, one, Texas wasn't able to protect Arch at all,
right?
but they also weren't able to run block. So it's like you have your offensive line.
52 total yards on the ground
Yeah,
for Texas.
yeah, your offensive line is just getting blown off the ball, and when you have that, I mean, you can't expect a quarterback to play good in that environment, especially a young quarterback playing a tough road environment, and yeah, just facing an overwhelming defense, and you're not able to run the ball effectively, so you're not able to set up stuff like play action, everything like that. They know, especially when Florida got the lead, they knew Texas was going to drop back, and they were just teeing off on Texas' offensive line, and Florida was just dominated, and was able to just make it that much more difficult on Arch to try to be able to play an effective game plan. You really only had one option because they knew you couldn't run the ball, and they were down, they were up on you, so they knew you had to throw the ball. So they know Arch is dropping back, and they're just going to tee off on you.
Drop 8 or 9, and yeah, and like I said, he still didn't have a disaster of a game.
No,
It's just a couple of turnovers late ended up being there, and they were in the game late too. That was the thing. And it just that was just like too little, too late. So yeah, Florida ends up taking the cake, 29-21 in the swamp. They moved to 2-3, and the Longhorns moved to 3-2. So we'll talk about Texas's game going into next week, obviously being the Red River Shootout. But yeah, it seems like they're on their heels a little bit.
yeah, definitely. When you had the offensive woes coming from Ohio State, and then to Texas, look, you can put up 55 points on Sam Houston State all you want, and say that answered your questions, and this Florida game showed that those question marks are still there.
That was SEC ball, absolutely.
So we'll talk a little bit more about it in the next episode, but some question marks going there for Texas and Florida. Billy Napier survives another week, so we'll see how long that show continues down the road. Let's go ahead and roll on to the one where I'd say we got it right. Alabama, Vanderbilt, Vandy going to Alabama. Bama ends up winning 30-14. And for this one, man, the biggest thing, whenever I was watching this game, was I was like, Diego Pavia is having to play hero ball.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw the downside of having to play 4 quarters of hero ball. It's fine if you need it, late in a drive, game-winning drive, whatever. You got to do what you got to do. But you saw the mistakes that came with it, the turnovers that were very costly for this Vanderbilt team. And he was having to do it because Vandy they're not quite at Bama's level as far as along the offensive and defensive line, and mainly that front seven of Alabama that was able to just really control the game. And Ty Simpson just moving the ball effectively for Alabama continues to play at an elite level.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that's what I said.
It's like it was just like the Bama machine just kept rolling, and Pavia's doing everything he can. And he's almost playing above himself, which is where you saw the mistakes come into play.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's Ty Simpson's world. We're all just living in it, right?
Yeah.
Seemingly after that Florida State game. Yeah, and I talked about it a little bit last week as well on the preview episode that, but I think the key to this game was going to be, Bama's talent compared to Vandy's talent, and all around, of course. And I think that's part of the reason why they were able to pull away there late, or in the second half at least anyway. But yeah, Ty Simpson, just going out there and tossed for 340, casual 2 touchdowns.
Casual, dude.
But, you look at that, and I'm taking nothing away from Ty Simpson because, like I said, it's his world. We're just living in it, right? But you got to give credit to the O-line when credit's due. They were stout for Ty Simpson. They were stout in the run game as well. Jam Miller, 22 carries, 136 yards, and a touchdown. Bama clearly won the line of scrimmage in this game. And that was the difference going into the second half. You saw in the first quarter, Vandy looked like they're
that jumped out.
Wasn't Bama's
first score,
yeah, that Cedric Alexander first quarter touchdown, and Diego Pavia breaks one off. With that big first quarter run that Alexander had, he ended up with under 80 yards in the total game, in the whole game. And Diego Pavia threw for less than 200. So you see that, like, yeah, they started off hot, but you saw kind of the talent level.
Right, as you get into the deep parts of the game, it's like Vandy might be able to match you. They might be able to scheme you a little bit.
And I'm not saying Vandy's not talented.
No,
That's why they're at where they're at. 5-1, I believe.
yeah,
Um, Still ranked, right? To my knowledge. But yeah, I mean, these guys, like, Vandy's going to be fine this year. I just think, yeah, that's the difference you saw in the second half of this game. Alabama versus, the Vanderbilts of the world. So yeah, Bama 30-14. Ty Simpson, Heisman hopeful,
yeah.
keeps the hopes alive.
Oh, I mean, I forget who I was telling. I kind of outlined it. I think on our X account I was talking about it. It's like, there's the SEC's definitely seems now as we've gotten into 4 or 5 weeks and there's definitely tiers. There's teams playing at a really high level, really elite tier, and then there's teams that are they're not bad teams. They're not just pushovers like Vanderbilt used to be. It's not a guaranteed win.
Right.
They're just not quite at that same level, right? You can see the
Right, and yeah, you're at this part of the season where you do start to see that separation,
Yeah.
in the good from the great, and it seems like, I don't want to speak too far in advance, but it seems like Bama's starting to separate themselves maybe a little bit as one of those greater teams still, Bama being Bama, and Vandy just being a good team. We'll see, like I said, Vandy's going to be all right, and taking nothing away from Vandy and their roster, I still think they're very talented. Like I said, that's why they're at where they're at. Just not quite there with the Alabamas of the world. Not yet.
Yeah, and like I said, it seemed like Diego Pavia was just having to, try to do everything he could in this game. And just, sometimes whenever you're just at that much of a deficit, it's just gonna lead to a couple mistakes, which cost them. But overall, still, I don't think this was a bad performance by Bandy. It really was just this was kind of what I expected. I forget I think I gave a score for this one, and I believe it was somewhere around like a 34-17, like a 15-point spread last week. Go to last week's episode and quote me on it, but yeah, I believe it was somewhere around there, and it was kind of about what ended up happening there. So let's talk about a game that was a beat down.
Yeah, but I said game
But the
was not
score,
as close as the box score might suggest, right?
right. If you only look at the box score in this one, it's Miami versus Florida State. Miami ends up winning 28-22. And
But then Miami loaded the buses after they went up 28-3.
yeah, that's true, right? Like, so this is, they're got the twos, the threes in, playing prevent defense, and Florida State's able to dink and dunk their way kind of down the field and start scoring some points. But man, was just Florida State, they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. And I think you saw what you saw in the Virginia game where Florida State's has a talent advantage, right? But they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Right.
But that talent advantage is able to come back and get them back in that game.
Right.
This is an example of a game where you don't have a talent advantage and you continue to make those same mistakes and it continues to hinder you. And it just allows a team like Miami that's executing at the level that Miami is.
Yeah.
To just roll over you.
Well, and that's the thing too, right, about Miami. It's like Miami could eventually, they could be right now, but they could eventually be the best team in the country come January. So it's like, yeah, when you keep shooting yourselves in the foot against a team like that, like they're going to capitalize on that. And that's what happened early on in the game. Yeah, I mean, Carson Beck, 20 of 27, 241, and 4 touchdowns. And the 4 touchdowns, of course, stood out to me, right? Like he's just sitting back there, touchdown here, touchdown. And it's like, yeah, but that's capitalizing off the Florida State mistakes. And because it was Castellanos, he didn't have like a bad game. He actually had a pretty good game towards the end. It was just too little too late. And yeah, so we'll see what happens for Florida State in the future. But yeah, two back-to-back losses.
Yeah, not ideal for the Seminoles in that one. But man, so did you watch the Carson Beck threw a flea flicker to Malachi Tony in the third quarter? Did you watch that pass?
Yes, I did.
I think so. Like, whenever Carson Beck left, his last year at Georgia it wasn't the best, right? It was kind of a regression down from his sophomore season or whatever it was, struggling.
I almost figured it out there.
There we go. All right, we're getting through it.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, but it's just kind of the ball where I was going with that point is just it seems the way that Carson Beck is playing is he's kind of regained that form of that sophomore year Georgia
Oh yeah,
Georgia form. Yeah.
he's gotten a swagger back.
Yeah.
Kind of what it looked like.
Swagger.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he 100% got his swagger back this year, and that was the confidence that Coach Cristobal had in him when he, offered him the scholarship to transfer, right? Like and people were over the offseason asking Mario Cristobal, oh, Carson Beck, after this last season, and he's like, I'm not worried about that. Like, he's going to be our guy. And sure enough, right now, he's one of the, I'd say, top 5 Heisman candidate going so far this year. He looks like a top 5 Heisman candidate as of right now. Full control over that offense. You saw that. So, pretty impressive.
Yeah, one thing I
And
did.
he's got the weapons around him.
Yeah.
Which he lacked last year. Georgia led the country in drops at Georgia, which should be unacceptable, right? But so yeah, he's got the weapons, and he looks comfortable, like I said. So
one thing I did want to note real quick was 2 things. I think Castellanos I think you saw a very similar game out of him and Pavia. I think he was playing a bunch of hero ball as well, and it bit him just like it did Pavia. But I guess I'd kind of mentioned that before. Is like he has that ability to go and make those plays, but as you said, sometimes it's just not going to work out in your favor, right? It's just not going to be. It's not going to be advantageous for your football team, and you're going to some of those plays that are the wow plays. They also have the potential to be the ooh plays or the oh plays.
yeah, well,
kind of gets a groan out of the crowd. But and then the second thing was I got to give props to Florida State's crowd. They at least stayed in it to the fourth quarter.
oh yeah.
And Florida State rallying back, they onside kick, whatever. They didn't end up getting it to have a chance there to maybe make a Hail Mary, but overall, I think you're just Miami could have scored a bunch more points in this game. I think they just kind of decided to, hey, we're just going to grind it out, take the win, move on to next week.
Right. And they almost fumbled that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's when you say about, Castellanos kind of, mirroring Pavia in his game and your ball thing. Just for those who don't know, I was just going to say, Castellanos 25 45, 272, 2 touchdowns, along with 16 carries for 57 yards. So yeah, you can see there if you're a quarterback and you have those stats, it's like, yeah, you were working.
Yeah. No, you're earning your paycheck. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's just
in the literal sense today's day.
Yeah, but if you're not, Florida State put up 19 points in the fourth quarter, but
they won the second half in points.
Yeah, but whenever you put up goose eggs in the second and third quarter, right? Those middle 2, and you just got nothing happening for you there. It's going to be tough to win a football game.
That's why I was saying too little, too late for these guys, and that's what we saw.
So let's go on. Who we got on the next matchup?
Texas Tech at Houston.
Texas Tech at Houston. This one was almost exactly how I watched. I watched this game, and I was sitting there. I was like, not to. I don't want to say toot my own horn. It's not where I'm trying to go with that, right? I'm trying to find a different analogy for it. But as I was sitting there watching, I was like, yep, that's exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah, and we talked about that, right? We were like I said, I think Texas Tech wins, covers, everything.
Yeah,
and yeah,
35-11. Texas Tech ended up beating 4-0 Houston. Texas Tech continues to look like a machine, dude.
Yeah, they even had Houston on Houston fights in the crowds.
Oh, did they?
Oh yeah.
That's how you know you're getting bad, is whenever you're swinging on the fellow fans. Man, Texas Tech, they it seems like every Big 12 team they've matched up with so far is,
they control their own destiny.
Yeah, they are, especially with Iowa State losing last week to Cincinnati. Texas Tech is the clear front runner in the Big 12, and they look like one of the best teams in the nation. So I think the money investment that they received over the offseason and the transfer portal and all that is paying off, at least
proves to
at least
it works.
At least through 6 weeks. They look fantastic. They look balanced. They look great on the defensive side of the ball. And they got Morton back, and he looked great. Was efficient, effective with the football, and yeah, they definitely everything that Texas Tech fans could dream of is definitely well in front of this team.
Absolutely. Yeah, they like I said, they control their own destiny at this point. We saw that Iowa State is in fact mortal in the Big 12 after the Cincinnati game. Cincinnati would be, one of the few teams that Texas Tech would have to worry about.
Yeah. BYU.
BYU as well. But yeah, I mean, after watching those teams, right, and seeing Texas Tech seems to have no holes in their game, at least not yet, and at least not in the Big 12 realm of things in their schedule. I know they played a couple easier opponents, no knock to those guys, but easier opponents in the beginning of the season. But once you get into Big 12 play, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it's an undefeated Houston team, and they go and they take care of business in Houston. Barry Morton, first game back, like I said, 28-40, 345 and a touchdown. Like
it's like
he's just healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it was a very impressive win. This was kind of like our pat on the back game, right? As few of those as we get.
Sometimes we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, sometimes. Me rarely, but yeah, and then the only other thing the Texas Tech D, right? It's a very balanced team, of course.
Yeah, they're complete.
They held Houston to 267 yards of total offense, so 103 on the ground and 164 in the air. So yeah, it was like it was just an all around good win. And that seems like that's how they've been beating people this year, no matter who it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see when they get to the later half of the year and they can keep everyone healthy. But yeah, it seems like the NIL portal stuff is translating pretty well up there in Lubbock.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just part of it is Texas Tech is funded like an SEC program, and they're playing in a Big 12 against teams that just aren't.
And it seems like they got the talent, as like an SEC roster would have. I mean,
yeah, that's part of it too, right? Is you got
to molds.
Yeah, just because you're paying people doesn't mean you're paying the right people. And it looks like they've done a good job evaluating and identifying those people.
Yeah, I think they control their own destiny to the Big 12 championship for sure, but
also the playoff. Yeah, more importantly, probably the playoff, right? So we got two more games to touch on. Let's hit on Mississippi State, Texas A&M. I think we predict this one right, both of us, right?
I think I might have said that it was. I can pull it up right now.
I know I
may have said that I thought it was gonna be closer than people might seem, or I was saying at least
it has the potential. It had the potential. But A&M, man, they pulled out a dominant 31-9 win. Mississippi State was not able to run the ball effectively against this A&M front.
And I think that was the difference.
And that's the difference, right? They were able to limit, and they got after Blake Shapen's.
77 yards on the ground total for Mississippi State in this game.
Yeah, and it's just incredible for me. This A&M team they're really interesting. I think they're as good as what they want to be. I mean, their 1-2 punch at running back with Reuben Owens and Le'Veon Moss. Incredible. I know Moss got hurt in this game, so he had to go out. Yeah. But I mean, when you have a back like Reuben Owens, becomes supplement.
Took over.
Yeah, just takes over, dude. No problem. Marcel Reed I think he's just continues to get better. Especially from where he was at last year.
But they didn't even. That's the thing is they didn't even need him to be.
You don't
flashy this year.
When you have the backs like
this year,
yeah. And the way that defense has been playing, everybody always wanted that was a big question mark last year for this team too. Was Mike Elko? He's a defensive guy. He was their defensive coordinator at one point under Jimbo, and it's like, okay, if he's the defensive guy, he needs to be able to fix the defense side of the ball. Well, I think you're kind of seeing that come to fruition. I know there were some question marks, especially after how Notre Dame was able to score the ball. But I think Notre Dame just might be pretty good on offense, at least from what we've seen in their games since that point.
Well, and CJ Carr is really stepping into his own as a freshman quarterback there in Notre Dame, but I digress. Marcel Reed, like I said, he didn't even have to be anything crazy this game. He still threw for 2 touchdowns, right? 180 yards in the air and a pick. But because A&M had 303 yards on the ground. And so like I said, Owens came in, steps up, has 142 yards on 21 carries. Like they don't have to do too much because of that run game. And then with the stout defense now, it's like you can control games like this, and that's what they did. And to be able to hold a Mississippi State run game to 77 yards in total, they ran the ball all over Tennessee.
Yeah.
And you saw how they were
effective. I mean, they were going 6-7 yards a clip against Tennessee, and it's not like anything changed. There wasn't any big injuries or anything like that. It's just this A&M defensive front was.
Oh yeah, that was the thing too. Mississippi State had injuries in the secondary.
Yeah,
and one receiver. And that just none of it mattered.
Huh.
Nothing really matters when you run for 303 yards on the ground, but so
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to give yourself a chance to win football games. But I mean, it's just this A&M team is, I think they are really good, right? And this is another one of those games, like we talked about in the Alabama Vanderbilt game. I think this is another game where you see the difference between a great team and a good team in the SEC, right? I think Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, I think I'm comfortable saying that they fall under the good category, right? They're not an easy slate, they're not an easy draw, but I think this A&M team is probably playing at the great level. I think they are.
yeah, that's what
Put
they're
them,
showing right now.
yeah, them, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, OU. I think those are kind of your teams playing in that great era right
You
now.
said Tennessee and the great just to make you feel better. That's all right. I forgive you.
I mean, you only got one loss, and it was to the Georgia team. So if I'm
No,
like,
I know.
if Alabama's playing great,
We'll see how
Georgia played them to one score, and you played Georgia just one score, right? Like right there at the end. I think
we'll
that's
see how they fare against Alabama come third Saturday in October, and
we're going to learn a lot.
and how that Arkansas game ends up being next week. So until then, appreciate the compliment.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to come disrespect you in your own house. You know what I mean?
I forgot that was in here.
So
and I try to get rid of my biases, and there's a Tennessee
pillow sitting right next to you. But yeah, those are the teams that are playing at the good to great level. I would say that's at least the top tier of the SEC.
Yep.
And I think the Mississippi State's Vanderbilt, you're seeing where that gap comes in whenever the games kind of go the way, or those, great teams don't kind of shoot themselves in the foot.
Right.
So yeah, that's about all I got on that one, man. I think this A&M team is just really good. I think they are really this. I mean, this is. I'm glad A&M is not on, OU's schedule, at least from a fan perspective, right? This is it's they're a tough draw, dude.
That'd be a hell of a game.
They are
this year.
They are a tough draw. And we got to talk about it, right? This is one game we didn't preview it. All other ones we previewed, gave y'all a prediction. We didn't feel like the need to touch on this one.
I thought it was gonna be a bloodbath. To be fair with you, to be completely transparent, I thought it was gonna be a bloodbath.
It was a bloodbath.
It was a get back. It was a get back game. It was a figure it out game. Bounce back from a tough loss game. Just not for the team that you might think.
Yeah.
Penn State traveled to Westwood, to Pasadena, a jam-packed, as Josh Pate would say, jam-packed Rose Bowl of about 17 fans. We saw the field rush at the end of the game as
huge,
7-8 people.
Yeah,
filled. Four of them were Penn State fans, just wanted to be on the field. No, I'm just kidding.
They covered the entire logo.
UCLA beats Penn State 42-37 in the Rose Bowl. Not the Rose Bowl game, the Rose Bowl stadium.
I don't.
What do you say? I mean, hey, I'll give him his flowers. Didn't let the bad taste in my mouth, but I'll give him his flowers. 16 carries, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground for Nico Yamaleava, and 17 24, 166 yards through the air, and 2 touchdowns. Accounted for 5 touchdowns, accounted for almost 300 yards.
Against what a lot of people would say, or at least going into the season, like I said, all the writers, everybody, they said Jim Knowles is the best defensive coordinator in college football. I read that
resume.
I read that over and over and over again. And could it be that? I mean, I don't think they changed too much offensively. I know they got a whole new thing, but it's like it's still the same players.
That's another thing too, right? So they fired head coach. They
cleaned up.
They elevated Neuheisel to the OC. That young, I'm sure many of you saw him in the news after that. Because this game, everyone knows about this game, or should if you watch college football like we do, the sickos, if you will. Neuheisel is elevated to OC and didn't even know how to work the headset.
Incredible. Incredible to admit that. Like, just the humility to be able to admit that is awesome.
Yeah. And they were able to beat this Penn State team. So we'll see what UCLA is going into the rest of the season. Probably not a whole lot of expectation after that. But with that being said, we'll see how Penn State ends up.
That's my question, right?
So
a team that people had
in the national championship.
Yeah. Because I mean, what they returned, right? And look,
Drew Aller was supposed to do all these great things.
Drew Aller's supposed
Defense
to be a Heisman
supposed to be all
contender.
the defense was supposed to do all these great things, and we're sitting here now, Penn State 3-2, and you're asking, do we fire James Franklin? I'm not saying whether or not, but you got Penn State, dogs barking. You got Penn State, the Penn State faithful. Of course, people are going to overreact, but they're asking the questions, right? And this was supposed to be a national championship potential bound team.
What I can tell you is the fire Franklin chance came out in the third quarter versus Oregon. If this game was played in Happy Valley and they lost to this UCLA team in Happy Valley, that whole stadium, if it was a whiteout, they would all left their clothes there. They would have been all over the field, and that field would have been whited out from all the T-shirts that got left behind.
Yeah.
Because this is for a team that had this level of expectations coming into the season.
Expectations and potential.
This is a unexcusable loss. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, does it put the nail in your coffin? Do you go ahead and start talking to the boosters to gather the buyout money for James Franklin? I don't know if you're there yet. I would want to see how the team kind of bounces back, but
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a gut check to your season, because it's going to be tough for this Penn State team, as they already have 2 losses. So if they win out, they're 10-2, right?
Then they still have to go to Columbus, Ohio.
Right. They still got to. That's assuming you beat Ohio State. You still are going to have a tough argument winning against. We just listed through all the SEC teams that are playing at great potential, so they have the ability to be. Those are 2 or 3 lost teams maybe at the end of the season, depending on how the games shake out. And you're going to have a tough time winning an argument with a loss to UCLA like this on your resume.
Yeah, I heard something this week too. Going about what if UCLA doesn't win another game
Exactly.
and Penn State wins out? Then you got to start having the conversation. Or they're the 9-3 bubble team, with the loss to Ohio State, and you're sitting there with a loss in the loss column to 1-11 UCLA. Their only win being against y'all.
Yeah,
it's like you got a lot on your plate now, and it's early on in the season. Yeah, total debacle game by Penn State. With that being said, nothing taken away from UCLA. What a game by UCLA. Came out
fantastic.
Played great offense. Nico shined.
I love the
defense did just enough against a far more talented team to hold them off. And yeah, it's people should, as few fans they have, the fans of UCLA should be very proud of that team for
I love
the
the
greatest upset in the last 5-10 years, probably.
Yeah, I mean, Penn State was
in the regular season.
Yeah, Penn State was 24.5-point favorites going into this one, and just the direction of UCLA was just
0-4 going in that one.
Yeah,
people were calling them the worst team in the country.
Did you watch the punt at like the very end of the game? The punter catches it and runs to the corner and just sits there, and Penn State just doesn't chase him. And
no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's sitting there for like 7-8 seconds, just letting the clock run off before Penn State actually goes after him, and then he runs out the back of the end zone, and then ends up kicking off or punting for the safety or whatever. And but yeah, it was like, I mean, I just had to give hats off to him, because Penn State just wasn't ready for it. Like, they were expecting full and well to kick the ball, or them to punt the ball and try to get the best return that they could. And
yeah, it's like the final score, again, UCLA 42-37. Penn State was supposed to win this game by adding up 42 and 37 and putting it on one side.
Yeah.
And making the other side 0. That was supposed to be the final score here in a Penn State world. And props to UCLA though, man.
Props to UCLA.
Go Bruins.
Yeah, go Bruins. And man, I think that's going to wrap it up for the recap episode. Overall, great week of ball. We're looking forward to getting with y'all on the Week 7 preview. And Monty, you got anything to close out the show?
Another crazy week of football. Another crazy week coming up. And then after that, now it's been a crazy season, but that's how we love it. So we'll get you all ready for the preview episode for Week 7. Is it already?
Week 7.
Week 7 already. Week 7 or 8.
We're already driving close to off season. I'm already dreading it.
Yeah, I'm already dreading it too. But we'll be here for y'all. So
we will be here all off season. So as always, man, thank y'all for tuning in. Like, subscribe to the show, tell your friends about it, make your wife listen to it with you in the car. Whatever you got to do to help kind of spread the word on this show. We appreciate everything y'all do, and we appreciate y'all for tuning in. And we will catch y'all on the Week 7 preview episode. As always, y'all have a good one. Peace.